So, we have we have the fourth Steadfast Steward public beta build. It looks like, based off of scrolling, I haven't looked at these yet. It looks like based off of scrolling, they're pretty small. It's pretty small, so I try not to ramble too much on this, but, I'm a rambler, so what can I say? I'm a little bit sick, so if you can hear that, I apologize. But it looks like we have some more Runaway Wanderer stuff, and now we got some Survivor, and then we got Battle Modifiers, at least based off reading this. So, if you don't know who I am, I stream every day. Twitch.tv/MarinerHawk in the description alongside these patch notes and some other stuff that you would need to know. I have like 3,200 hours, something like that, in Darkest Dungeon 2 at this point, so I have a lot. So I'm gonna go through these patch notes, read around, read through them, and then we'll look at them in game, see if there's anything in game that we can see that's any different. But I'll be testing these out over the next few days. Also, I do like the Runaway a lot. Honestly, Wander is probably the one that I play the most. Survivor, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Survivor, because I like the idea of Survivor. I know a lot of people kind of don't like Survivor. I think in the right situations, like if you build a team around it, like the thing I've always said about Survivor is that it's not a path that you should probably just it's not a path that you should just like drop into a comp. But if you were like, all right, let's make a build and it has Survivor in it, I think it works out well because it works really really well with Intermezzo and then with just like occultists in general, because of how many bleeds there are. So it's gonna be I'm curious to see what they end up doing with Survivor. Um, Survivor, I think, as it stands or as it stood, it was probably never going to be super popular because at the end of the day, it's got minus piercing and minus damage, and I think it's going to scare a lot of people off of like trying it, which is understandable. I totally get it. So I'm really curious actually to see what they do with Survivor alongside whatever Wanderer changes. Uh, so when this says Wanderer, by the way, the patch notes are a little confusing. When this says Wanderer, this is technically every path. Like Backdraft, for example, this is every path where Backdraft isn't affected. So I was thinking last week, when I was going through the changes, I was surprised to see that the Wanderer changes, quote unquote, were on all the paths, but it's on all the paths um, that don't have an effect. So something like Smokescreen. If it's Wanderer in the patch notes, if it's Wanderer Smokescreen, it's going to be for every path, assuming that no other new paths have a Smokescreen change. Um, so that's worth keeping in mind. For what it's worth, I think they said mid July is when they want the Steadfast Steward update to like come into live. So that'll be interesting. So we have another a month, give or take, of adjustments before we get into this. So backdrop and backdrop plus cooldown reverted to 1. I was kind of surprised they changed it to 2 anyways. Um, I think most people would probably agree that backdraft probably needs a buff in general. And I was kind of surprised that they made it a turn 2 or a 2-turn cooldown. It's backdraft's tough because it's one of those. It has a really really high ceiling, mean that you can just like blow up the fucking backline, but its floor is really low. Like in ability, it's one of those abilities that if we could have all 11 abilities, I think it'd be good because you'd be able to get that like middle kind of ground value out of it. But when you not only have to get value out of the ability and get enough value out of the ability in order to make it one of your 5 best skills, I think it's just tough. I'm not sure if we'll ever see backdraft be super useful, and if it does, it's probably just because it ends up being like busted, like broken, because they end another burn hero, and it just is ridiculous. But we'll see. I think this is a tough ability to have. No longer clears burn for the source target. Okay. So they made it so it clears unmastered, it cleared the burn from the source target. So that's not a thing anymore. So that's interesting. Backdraft damage calculation increased from 75% to 100%. Backdraft plus now clears the runaway skill cooldowns on crit. Oh god, does that mean she's gonna have like disgusting cooldowns now? I mean, that'd be interesting with like run and hide. Does that mean she's gonna have really high cooldowns now? Oh god. Backdraft experiments continue. We often limit high damage potential moves to less frequent use, but the constant give and take tick rate of dots, the core calculation for the skill's damage means it's more about timing than spamming, so we decided to return the cooldown to its previous value. Okay. Cauterize and Cauterize Plus launch ranks increased from 123 to 1234. Yeah, it was kind of weird. Not being able to use it in rank 4 sucked. Um, like it's a really good ability, so like I get it, but that kind of sucked, which is what they made in the last change. So it made it so that like rank 4 Arsonist or Orphan had kind of handcuffs on there. So I thought that was kind of weird. It's a good change though. Dragonfly now has plus 10% burn, res, piercing when Runaway has stealth. Okay, so more stealth value. That's good. Dragonfly burn, res, piercing when the Runaway has stealth, reduced from 20% to 10%. Okay, so they made it 10% either way. So whether you master it or not. Dragonfly's a pretty loaded skill already. Yeah, fair. We wanted to retain some stealth synergy, but not as potent as the single target options. That's fair. So you don't need to master it in order for the burn piercing. 10% burn piercing's pretty low. I don't know. I mean, it makes this so like a 10 obviously is like a 10, like the shields, for example, that have like 10 burn res makes it so it's like a 0 now. I don't know. 10% doesn't feel pretty, like it's good that it has something, but that feels pretty negligible in most situations. Firefly and Firefly Plus change to the direction of combo burn has been reverted. So this was towards the front. So it used to be it spread the burn. So if you hit to rank 2, it could go to rank 1 or rank 3. But they made it so it was the one in front now. Firefly now against plus 10 burn, res, piercing, then has stealth. Nice when it worked, but introduced issues with size 2 enemies that were not inclined to solve with unique special case rules for combo and some consumption. Reverting the change guarantees that the burn at least always has a target to which it can apply. Stealth synergy is now available at the base level instead of requiring mastery to get some benefit. Okay, so it was the target in front, and then now they changed it back to just random. Yeah, that's it's definitely better with like size 2s and stuff. I don't know. I mean, I thought it being more consistently. I think I said it when I went through it. I think it being more consistently in the front honestly was fine. But admittedly, yeah, with like size 2s and stuff, it ends up just being a waste of a combo. Um, we're not introduced issues with size 2 enemies that were not inclined to solve with unique special case rules for combo consumption. I'm assuming with this they're implying that they just didn't want to make it so that like if no enemy in front, it doesn't use the combo. I assume that's what that means. I don't know if that's a coding example or they just didn't want to like make that a thing. I think that would be probably the good answer, but if they're not interested in solving that with like a special case, I guess that's fair. Yeah, bouncing, I mean, the random targets, it's fair. I think both ways are good and bad depending on how you do it. It does feel bad to waste a combo though. Firestarter and Fighter Starter plus burn buff reduced from 3 to 2, so they buffed it and then nerfed it. Firestarter and Firestarter plus use limits have been removed. Okay, never mind. That makes sense then. Yeah, so these two as a pair makes sense. Okay. Firestarter and Firestarter plus burn buff is now compatible with effects that influence burn duration and mounts such as trinkets or other sides buffs or debuffs. We thought we'd try a balancing experience with Firestarter by making it more readily available at a slightly lower burn value that could benefit from other influences such as Physician's Cause of Death or trinkets. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, nobody's really using this shit right now. Nobody's using Physician Cause of Death. I like the idea of it, but unless they change it something later or something like that. But um, does that make Firestarter better? I'm not sure. That might be one of those where I'd have to play out. I'm not totally sure now, to be honest. I don't think that changes. I don't think that changes a lot. I'm not sure, really, except for the exception of like boss fights or like really long fights. I'm not really sure if the use limit of Firestarter really makes a huge difference of anything. I don't think so. At least when I used it, I never really felt like it's something that you have to kind of like hesitate before you use because of the use limit. Maybe not having to hesitate anymore helps. Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to try that out. That doesn't seem like a huge change. Just like practically. Like when you read it, it does, but when practically, like in practice, I'm not sure that it does. I don't know. Hearthlight and Hearthlight Plus are now considered range skills. Ransack and Ransack Plus no longer spread burn versus combo. Ransack and Ransack Plus no longer ignores 20 burn res when the runaway is stealth. Ransack now grants 1 stealth versus combo. Ransack Plus grants 2 stealth in a combo. Okay, so they want to do the Binding Shadows thing. The change that they made with Cultist. After some deliberation, we decided to try positioning Ransack as a sister skill to run it high as a stealth setup with forward movement instead of back, enabling front rank skills such as Dragonfly and Searing Strike to more readily benefit from stealth synergies. How do I feel about that? Probably pretty good. It feels probably pretty good because like the burn spread, yeah, you don't really play like sometimes it was nice to have the burn spread on Ransack, but you don't really use Ransack for the burn spread, so this is probably better. That might be one of those, another one of those where you kind of have to like try it in practice and see how it comes out. That's probably better though. 2 stealth versus combo is pretty crazy because Ransack usually, if that's an ability that you're using, like if it's even on your bar, you're probably using it quite a bit, so you're probably mastering it kind of early. So I can see that being pretty damn good. Yeah, that'll have to play. It sounds pretty interesting. Searing Strike and Searing Strike plus combo effect has been changed to the random burn spread. Okay, so instead of just adding, burn, it gives a burn spread. Interesting. Searing Strike is +1 burn when the runaway has stealth. Applies to the base burn and the spread. Searing Strike that's +2 burn when the runaway has stealth. This applies to the base burn and the spread. Oh, okay. Burn value increased from 2 to 3. Okay, wow. With Ransack losing the random burn spread, Searing Strike felt like the right place to gain it. We feel that between the combos and direct damage, reach, and how the stealth synergy interacts with the combo effect. Searing Strike and Firefly can now have different purposes. Searing Strike gets bigger spread, while Firefly does more reliably. Smokescreen had all its changes reverted. We considered making adjustments to base Smokescreen to give it the same cooldown and restricting its ranks, but it's become an integral part of so many kits that we decided to just leave it as is on Wanderer. So they're implying, I guess, maybe that Survivor's different. Yeah, Searing Strike is kind of in this weird, has always been sort of in this weird, at least in my experience, has always been in this weird place where, like, it just feels like you'd rather have the pull aspect of Ransack. Like, I understand Searing Strike, like, in theory, but at least when you play it, it never felt like something that was gonna use super much. At least in my experience. So now you have the mastered Searing Strike. Now, if she's stealth, so it's 3. So if she's stealthed, it's 5, and the spread is also 5, and that's probably, I assume that also gets into, if you want to, like with her blanket or with that crit trinket that I'm blanking because my brain's not working well. Anyways, so you can get some pretty crazy value out of that. So that seems like Wanderer, at least Wanderer Searing Strike, kind of has similar power to like what Orphan does, like rank 4 Orphan. It just applies a ton of burn. That's really interesting. I feel like, so when I normally run Runaway, I usually go like Searing Strike, Smokescreen. Here, I guess I show it in game, I guess. I usually go this. I usually go like that. So we have like Ransack, Smokescreen, Run and Hide, Cauterize, and Dragonfly. And that, like, none of those particularly I want to pull off the bar. But I wonder if, like, what would I take off? Like, probably one of these, since they both kind of do the same thing, I guess. If I was thinking about it. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I feel like, at least if you're playing her in, like, rank 1 or 2 or, like, kind of dancing, I feel like none of these I really want to take off. So it'd be tough. Like, where does Searing Strike go on there? I'm not sure. You could probably make some, I guess you don't really have to use Ransack, but maybe you do. I don't know. Probably one of these two, I guess, but with the stealth synergy now, I don't know. Interesting. Okay. So Survivor. The Survivor path has been retooled to be able to brawl rather than being forced into a support role with mechanics and skills that support an ebb and flow. Health, alternately drawing fire and disappearing when needed. When stealth still offers some burn synergies, it can also be expanded on bulk and various skills to sacrifice defense for more immediate gains. She's a taunter now? If the survivor's health is still below, sorry. If the survivor's health is still below 75% after receiving any heal, she has a chance to gain dodge or dodge plus. Interesting. So I'm receiving any heal. I'm assuming this counts as regen also. So this does say or, this doesn't say and, so I'm guessing it would be the 50% for the dodge, and if that doesn't roll, then it would try to roll the dodge plus if I had to guess. Okay, so this makes sense why they made the changes to the health bars then, to see the threshold a little better. Interesting. Survivor is intended to be more mid and front ranks capable as a combatant, not relegated to a support role, so we decided to normalize the extremely Wanderer plus Cauterize. There are other skills on this path that provide additional avenues of healing. Cauterize felt really, really nice on this path. I mean, it's kind of the only thing it had going for it, really. But if they're spreading the power to the rest of the path, it makes sense why they do this. But Cauterize felt really nice on that. I still am not a big fan of the Ritualist not having the increased healing, just because it does feel nice to have the increased healing. So I wonder if I'm going to feel the same for Cauterize or not. Control Burn is no longer affected Dragonfly, so this was all minus piercing. Yeah. These skills were only negatively impacted by the path previously, having reduced burn piercing. We further wanted them to match the new Wanderer version of the skills, and Survivors would still have some burn options that, in the case of Dragonfly and Firefly, synergize with stealth rather than expanding into bulk in the fashion of some new Survivor skills. Yeah, this minus piercing kind of had to go. If you want people to play Survivor, it kind of had to go. Most people are not going to see minus piercing and minus damage and think that that's a path that they want to play, and I totally get it. Hearthlight is now a path skill. Okay, Hearthlight and Hearthlight Plus target a single hero. Okay, so that's kind of the change that Magrain, they made for Magrain on Alchemist, right? Hearthlight and Hearthlight Plus launch ranks are 1, 2, 3. Hearthlight and Hearthlight Plus target ranks are 1, 2, 3, 4. Hearthlight is considered a heal skill. It has a cooldown of 2. Requires the target to have stealth. Okay. So it targets a single hero that has to have stealth. That seems really niche. It removes all stealth. Am I stupid? It does say target a hero. Okay, I am stupid. It says target a hero. Okay. All right, hold on. My brain don't work. All right, we're starting over. I was thinking enemies. All right, start. All right, target's a hero. Okay, so there are heal skills. Removes all stealth and heals for 10% for stealth token on the target. Oh, interesting. Applies 1 regen per stealth token. Applies 2 regen per stealth token. This could be... So this could be... Hearthlight Mastered could be... If they had 2 stealth... They'd be a 20% heal and a 4 regen. And it heals stress, too? Jesus Christ. Wow, that's crazy. How often... So, Wanderer... So, a lot of the question when it came up with Occultist, because Wanderer... Weird reconstruction with 2 unchecked power tokens adds 2 stealth onto it. And there was a question of, like, that too awkward? Because, like, you don't want to be stealthing your tanks, right? You really don't want to be doing that. So that's awkward. So now it creates a scenario where actually the stealth could be interesting, because you could basically stealth your tank with weird, and then Hearthlight could just pop the stealth. Excuse me. So that could be... And it cures stress. Dude, that's a crazy ability, actually. That's kind of crazy. It's really interesting. Honestly, that gives her a lot of self-sufficiency. I assume it can target herself. But that gives her a lot of self-sufficiency, I would think, would be the best way of going about that. The Survivor has a broader recovery option available in her version of Hearthlight, albeit at the cost of someone's defenses. The Mastered offers her a way to potentially alleviate some of the stress she's likely to absorb while taking hits. So it can be usable on her, and they're saying that should be a way of going about it. Despite being a heal, we opted to keep Hearthlight strictly cooldown instead of use limited due to the stealth cost. There's more consideration to make this purely cost the Survivor stealth, but there are more interesting synergies, options, and trinkets, quirks, and other heroes if it requires the target stealth instead. This one might be a bit loaded, but it's more difficult to get the maximum effect about it on the other heroes. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. That's a very, like, shrug way of ending it. And I do respect that, because that is right. Like I said, so you give somebody 2 stress, Hearthlight Mastered is a 20% heal, 4 regen, and -2 stress. That is pretty crazy. So that opens up a lot of synergies again, like with Wanderer, Occultist, or Grave Robber. Although you don't really want to de-stealth Grave Robber, I could see a scenario where it's nice to have. It's interesting. It's gonna see how we're gonna have to see how those interactions heal up. And yeah, like they said too, with trinkets and stuff, that could be really interesting. That does seem like a pretty goddamn loaded ability. We'll have to see. Ransack and Ransack Plus no longer have innately reduced burn res piercing. No longer spread burn to the adjacent hero. Ransack and Ransack Plus now remove all the stealth from the Runaway when used if there are positive tokens on the target that can be stolen. Remove all stealth on the Runaway when used if there are positive targets on the token that can be stolen. So she has to be stealthed, and then you can ransack them and steal their tokens. Ransack. So the crit when crit is a 9 instead of 8 would be the best way of looking at that. Ransack still 1 positive token per stealth. Okay. Per stealth. I'm assuming run and hide is the same. So you would like run and hide ransack and steal 2 positive tokens. That is interesting. I like that thematically too. Ransack ignores block while the runaway has stealth. Ransack plus damage reduced from 4 to 8 to 4 to 7. Now steals 2 positive tokens per stealth. Wow, so you could run and hide and then steal 4 tokens. That's crazy. Ransack plus now ignores block and dodge when the survivor has or when the runaway has stealth. Wow. You can ignore it and steal it. Wow, that's another sounds like a really loaded ability. Mastered. So run and hide into mastered ransack. And steal 4 positive tokens while also ignoring those tokens. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. The survivor is meant to be more survivable. We felt it appropriate to have a ransack provide a way to reduce enemy tokens while providing her with her own. In order to facilitate stealing the more defensive tokens, ransack has gained some conditional ignores so that it doesn't consume what you may wish to steal. That's good. That's a good yeah, that's a good change there. Yeah, ignores, right, so you could steal it without using it. That's crazy. Damage has been, I'm gonna say this DMG. Damage has been slightly adjusted in accordance with the ignores and new utility. That is a hell of a lot of utility. So this survivor seems like, I guess a little similar to how it was before in the sense of like, if you have an idea of how to get good value out of it when you create a comp, you can get some crazy stuff. And that's kind of what, yeah, that's kind of what the old survivor was. Like if you ran survivor with like intermezzo, like you could, survivor feels like a really, really good path when you're able to get a lot of the cauterize. So survivor, it kind of seems like they kept that kind of identity, which is really interesting. Run and hide is no longer a path skill. I will say the 5 regen on Run and hide was really nice, but considering she has Hearthlight to give herself regen, that's probably makes sense that it's no longer what it was before. No longer have innately reduced piercings. Have Searing Strike Plus have retain their former damage values. Retain their former Wanderer. Okay, so Searing Strike on Wanderer changed to the burn, the handing the burn to others, but Searing Strike on this keeps the extra burn versus combo. Okay, Searing Strike and Searing Strike Plus remove all stealth from the runaway. Searing Strike and Searing Strike Plus gain plus 50% crit per stealth token on the runaway. So it's again, run and hide into Searing Strike is a guaranteed crit, but it does get rid of it, or it does get rid of the stealth. Huh. It's a guaranteed crit with 2 stealths. Yeah, that's another one where, yeah, so it does seem like Survivor is kind of similar to how it was before, where it's like, if you want to get the best value out of it, you got to create a team around it, where if you just drop it into a combo, it's going to be a little harder, huh? Searing Strike and Searing Strike Plus increase the duration of the combo, non-combo burn by +1. This explicitly only applies to Searing Strikes. I'm gonna have to look at that in game. I don't really understand what that means. We wanted to remix the former version of Searing Strike that Survivor had in a way that paired with her melee stealth consumption for added effect. It's plus 50% crit a lot, sure, but at a single stealth token, it's no different from Grave Robber's combo bonus. And at 2 stealth tokens, you're sacrificing a lot of safety for the payoff. Okay, that's a good point. Yeah, because I was thinking the plus 50% is the same as interest. Okay, yeah, it is the same as Grave Robber. Yeah, so you get a guaranteed crit off Run and Hide. You Run and Hide gives you 2 stealth tokens, guaranteed crit, but you lose the stealth opportunities from that. I'll have to see how that feels. So what it says, retain the Wanderer damage values. I think it's 3. Is it 3 to 6? Normally, I guess we'll look at that. I'll have to see this one in game. I'll have to see Searing Strike in game to see how that feels. Smokescreen is now a path skill. Okay, Smokescreen is Smokescreen launch range change to 1, 2, 3. Now a self-targeting buff instead of an enemy debuff skill. Smokescreen and smoke. Interesting. Smokescreen move the runaway forward 1 and grant 2 taunt. I did say it. Based on the wording, it seemed like there's gonna be a taunt. Smokescreen causing a taunt. The fuck are what is going on? Smokescreen and Smokescreen Plus grant a buff that applies blind to any monster that attacks the runaway. This lasts until the start of her next turn. So it's like more, like how more. Yeah, so it's like more, sort of. Similar to more. Smokescreen and Smokescreen Plus apply 2 stealth to the runaway at the start of her next turn. So 2 taunt, and then the enemies attack her, and then at the start of her next turn, she gets stealth. Smoke screen cooldown is now 3. Wow. I mean, it makes sense because it is 2 taunts and stuff, and it applies the stealth, but damn. 3 cooldown's crazy. Smoke screen plus cooldown is now 2. Smoke screen plus, I might have to play that. We'll have to see. Smoke screen plus enhances the buff to apply both blind and combo to any monster that attacks the runaway. Blind, okay, so instead of them attacking her and just getting blind, they attack and get combo also. We thought we'd try something a little different with Smoke Screen, providing a way for Runaway to pull hits, giving her the necessary health runway for her path passive, or just disappearing to make use of her very stealth benefits. Depending on timing, maybe a little luck, there's a potential blind output. Yeah, because it's any monster that applies. So even though it adds 2 taunt, it could in theory add even more of that, because if they just hit her naturally, it could even more. Depending on timing, maybe a little luck. There's a lot of potential blind output. In addition, we're added forward movement, so she can be sure to be in the front ranks. Okay. Pulls her forward. That'll be interesting. We'll have to see how that plays. That'll be interesting. Yeah, you might have to play just to get the you might have to play Survivor just to get like the value out of it. I'm not sure if you can look at this and say and have like a informed opinion on the path. I think you have to play it. It's some interesting stuff though, I guess would be the best way of wording it. Interesting stuff. Okay, so we have Plague Doctor trinkets here. So let's look at our little. It's easier for me to see this in game. So let's just look in game. Let's look at the trinkets. They are right here. The annotated textbook used to be plus melee crit and then extra healing with the restorative herb. So now it's target invert 1 negative token or hero, sorry. Target hero. Okay, so this is like for healing now. Okay. I was still thinking it was incision. Invert 1 negative token or plus 1 stress. That's kind of funny actually. I wonder how that works with indiscriminate science. Yeah, how does that work with indiscriminate science, I wonder? Plus 50% healing given from skills and restorative items equipped. Okay, so they just changed the plus melee crit. They changed it into invert negative token. I wonder how that works with like emboldening. Like if somebody has a weak token and you try to emboldening vapors them. Yeah, I'll have to see. We'll have to see how that works. I'll have to see how that works. That's so funny. That's a 1 in 20 chance of adding stress. Like that's such a small. It's such a small thing, but honestly kind of funny. Okay, so early experiment. Plus 1 blight dealt when Noxious is equipped. Apply on crit. Invert 2 positive tokens. Crazy. Gain when moved by enemy. A blight or a bleed, a blight, or a burn. Huh. That's an interesting negative, actually. Apply on crit. Invert 2 positive tokens. That could be pretty crazy. Because I know, like, I know Alchemist. New Alchemist has 15. Noxious Blast has 15% crit. Unmastered and the 20% crit mastered. So that is pretty goddamn high. Yeah, so I guess it is still that's pretty crazy. Apply on crit. So you're critting on like a non-small percentage of the time. But then within that times that you're critting, they'd also have to have positive tokens to invert. Interesting, they gave her 2 invert trinkets. Interesting. And we have storage room key, ounce of prevention. Okay, so it still gives a block to everybody. Emboldening vapors still gives regen, and then plus 1 speed per medical gear equipped. Oh, I kind of like that. Gain on miss, -1 speed for 3 turns. Huh. So not much of a change. Small little change, but I like the speed. Interesting. So you have to, if you get this trinket or if you buy this trinket, you have to consider you got to consider the medical gear aspect of it too. Interesting. So pretty much the same thing. The slight change. Interesting. All right, so let's look at Runaway changes in game. See if there's anything we can notice that's different from. It's easier to see when reading patch notes, when not reading patch notes. Apparently the health tokens change. Why is it not like? I wonder. That's got to be a graphical bug. Why is it not like? Why has it got like a stock market dip to it? Diamond hands kind of look to it. Why is it not like a perfect square? Anyways, that probably makes more sense. Because I know people were really not happy with stealth is yellow. I want to say 4 to 9 on Searing Strike is a crazy range. Leper kind of range there. So that means it would crit for 14? So Mastered Searing Strike crits for 14. And it can apply some extra burn. So this is... If you lean into it enough, like if you lean into it, so let's say she's stealth, you're able to get a crit, and it's into a combo. So that would be plus 5 burn. Or that would be 5 burn to the target, 5 to the adjacent enemy. And it would be 14 damage. So that's crazy. But the low end also is doing 4 damage with a 3 burn. I guess it's not too bad. Yeah, like I was saying earlier, like with this skill set, I don't know what I take. I don't know what I take off. Like this is normally the way I play with her. I don't know what I take off for Searing Strike. Searing Strike might be worth putting on the bar now. That range is crazy. I don't think people are gonna like that. Like Unmastered Searing Strike doing 3 damage for 2 burn feels so different than 7 and 2 burn. I don't know if people are gonna like that. I think it's how it's always been, but I don't like notice it, I guess, because I don't really use Searing Strike that much. I think they've got to lower that range. 4 to 9 is an insane range. Like it's got to be 5 or 6 to 9, like mastered. People want to use that. That's a leper fucking. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, so Firefly still good. Piercing when stealth, so it gives it an Arsonist sort of thing. Smokescreen reverted. Yeah, it's probably, I don't know. My opinion on the smokescreen being a 2-turn cooldown when you master it is I'm not like super opposed to abilities having longer cooldowns if they're really efficient mastery, but I just wish they wouldn't have done it with. I wish they wouldn't have tested it with smokescreen. Smokescreen's kind of all Bonnie has for a subset of players, so. I don't want to see it. I'd rather see them like test it with like blinding gas or something like that, like Doctor. But they reverted it anyway, so it didn't matter. Anything else I can see? I wonder how this stealth feels. I mean, I guess in theory, if you're doing this, you have a team that combos a lot. You don't need Run and Hide, right? Because then you would just get the stealth through Ransack, and then you could go like that. Maybe that would be the change that I would make, is not running Run and Hide and just getting the stealth off of Ransack. So you'd have to combo a lot to make that worth it, but you can use Dragonfly as your knockback, your move back. Yeah, that might be the best way to go about it. Without having played it yet, that might be a good way of going about it. So I think the clear skill cooldowns on Mastered Backdraft on crit, I actually think is what does she have that are cooldowns? I guess Run and Hide, so it allows you to get more. It would allow you to get more stealth. Yeah, Controlled Burn. Yeah, so you can't. My understanding is you can't put Controlled Burn. It's like the Consecrations. You can't put them on the same rank, but you could have 2 different ranks on Controlled Burn. And then I guess it sets up for Firestarter too. Okay, so I guess the crit off of. So if you're really leaning into Backdraft, like really leaning into Backdraft, the skills that you're using to do that are probably like and obviously like whatever else, right? But these are probably 3 skills that you're definitely using, and these have pretty long cooldowns. So this creates this, like, in theory, like a pretty crazy snowball effect, right? And I guess Backdraft would clear its own cooldown too, so you could use it back to back. So you could, like, I don't know, Controlled Burn, Firestarter, Backdraft, and then if Backdraft crit, you could do that again, or you could even Backdraft again. Huh. So Backdraft has more tools now, especially with Firestarter not having a use limit anymore. A lot of commitment to try to get Backdraft to work, but I wonder how that would. I wonder if that would work. Because then you could go. Searing Strike would give you a lot of burn too. You might be able to make that work. It's a lot of commitment. And the question about whether it's worth it, obviously, is a fair argument, but interesting. There are more tools for the Backdraft lovers. There are more tools. I don't know if there's any Backdraft lovers out there, but there are more tools. Let's take a look at Survivor compared to Wanderer. Survivor on the left, Wanderer on the right. So Survivor keeps the Searing Strike that applies extra burn. Wonder how the plus 50% crit per stealth token feels. I wonder. Because it does remove the stealth. I wonder how that feels. I could see it going either way. That's definitely something that I'll have to test. Wonder how that feels. Yeah, Survivor feels like one of those things. Like I kind of said the same thing about Warlock. It's one of those paths you have to like try. Like you can't just read it and be like, I know what I'm talking about. Like you gotta play it. So it's hard to tell because there's a lot of like flow in this. Smoke screen with a taunt and a forward one. Huh. Yeah, that's another one. I have no idea how that's gonna play. It's really interesting to see how that's gonna play. I mean, I like the idea of it. I'm just trying to think, like, when exactly would you use that? Like, when is the best time to use it? You gotta think about it also. You're not having the on-demand blind, at least not in the same way, I guess. I almost wonder if you, like, think about, you have to, like, look at the turn order and be like, okay, well, normally, if I was playing Wanderer, I would smoke screen, I don't know, the Pit Fighter or whatever. And if the Pit Fighter's gonna go after the Runaway, then you would use it there, so it would be kind of similar. It'd be pretty similar. It is interesting, though. And then she gets the stealth anyway, so she kind of takes a couple of hits and then stealths, and then off the stealth, you can do extra... You can get, like, piercing and stuff, or crit. Interesting. Or heal herself. Hearthlight being a heal skill, too, is really interesting. Yeah, this... Well, I'll just have to play this. Is this highlighted or not? Is Ransack highlighted? I can't tell. It is. But you can't even... It's hard to tell. Yeah, and then the stealing positive tokens thing is interesting also. Yeah, you might have to play this, because I feel like Survivor, if you don't play Survivor right, it's going to feel like a shit path. But if you play it right, it's going to feel like a really good path. I have to try to think how to play that. It does seems like it has an interesting use, but that might take us a little bit before we really kind of understand. Okay, battle modifiers. Dev note, when looking at battle modifiers, we found that 8 was a fairly low number, which led to encountering the same battle modifiers too frequently. We decided to add several new battle modifiers to help add variety. Okay, I like that. We wanted to keep the buffs and effects relatively simple and to tap into token interactions and effect triggers that most enemies can take advantage of. In addition to new battle modifiers, we updated several existing battle modifiers to reduce duplicate buffs and reduce frustrating stat buffs. Okay. Ambush is the same. Elite enemies, +1 speed, removed +1 speed, sorry. Frenzy enemies replace +25% damage with combat start strength token and gain when hit strength token. Okay, so it's a technically it's a buff the damage, because it would be 50% instead of 25%, but it's more inconsistent. Interesting. Hail enemies move +15% debuff resist to impervious enemies, so the hail enemies only get the dot res now. Hasten enemies reduce speed buff from +4 to +2. They did that in the last patch, I believe. Impervious enemies reduce stun res buff from 50% to 25% and gain 15% debuff res. Yeah, the 50% probably felt more frustrating now because there's more stuns in the games than there used to be. It's probably better that's at 25%, so it's not like it completely deletes all of your stuns. Infectious enemies is unchanged. Steady enemies replace 25% max health with combat start block plus token ×2. Oof, man, that could be rough. Yeah, I'm thinking like pillagers, because pillagers sometimes have you can have really tough fights. Like that's depending on the pillager mash, you definitely don't want to be in a fight for super long. And this is gonna make the fight last longer. Oof, that could be I'd see it being pretty brutal. Okay, so these are the new ones. So entropic enemies, turn 1 and 1 random token. Dev note, basically true entropy for enemies. It's all fun and games until Pit Fighter gets a crit. That is kind of funny though. Prowling enemies, random enemy on combat start, stealth token, and +15% crit while stealth. This is over pretty quick, I guess, right? Huh. Dev note, round start was considered, but we opted to stay with combat start for now, so it's not persistent through a fight, which could lead to frustrating moments. Yeah, this doesn't seem... That doesn't seem... I mean, if it's on, like, a high damage... a high damage enemy, like the Knight or something, I could see that being pretty annoying. That honestly doesn't seem too bad. I guess it could be annoying. It could be pretty annoying depending on, yeah, who's stealthed. Vengeful enemies ally death, add 1 positive token. Dev note, we're starting with this single line effect for now as it's simple and clear around what's happening if it made about who's potent as some wanted to be. Yeah, that's pretty negligible, but I think you're probably happy if you get vengeful enemies every time. Assume. Intimidating enemies, apply on crit, weak token, vulnerable token, knockback 1. I could see that being pretty fucking annoying. I kind of like that though. I could see that being pretty damn annoying. Dude, if you get the lady and the fetter with that, oh my god, it would drive me insane. Dormant enemies, combat start days and turn start crit token when last in turn order. Oh god. these are kind of interesting. I like these. We'll have to see how they play. They're kind of interesting. Huh. Update weak token so it's actually plus 50% reduction after all other modifiers are applied. A buff or a nerf? This is a very experimental change with the hopes to improve the potency and clarity for weak token effects. A lot of knock-ons. There's a lot of knock-ons and risks that come with something like this, and we'll be monitoring the impact closely. Similar to the flat damage buff change with Drainment, we'll have backup plans to revert it and introduce more problems in the solves. Please try out the change, provide any and all feedback around it, and we hope you enjoy it, even if it's short-lived. I genuinely, honestly, off the top of my head, I have no idea whether that's a buff or a nerf. I have no idea. I'm sure there's somebody that does. If anybody understands that a little bit better, you can tell me. But without playing it, I'm not even sure. Adjusted memory reroll pricing to be more accurate to full release intention. New prices are 4, 8, 16, 32. Resets on next altar visit, okay. Adjusting quarter notches and health bar to be more accurate in combat, okay. Added line break to requires and ignores lines on enemy academic view, okay. Anything interesting in here? Fixed bounty hunter immobile in kingdoms after respawning. Added button on hoarder to apply players the torch tooltip. That's probably good. I got this one a lot. Fixed demons pull hero goal being generated when altar of hope is complete. I feel like I got that a lot. Like, why does he want a demon pull so much? Less than cursed skill assignment now selects from all skills when full bar isn't fully equipped. I believe that's like, so, because I never did it, but I always said, I was like, I'm pretty sure you could cheese this. Because like if you wanted like your ability that you're using all the time and you have a 100% relationship chance, just unequip all the other skills and just have that one skill. I'm pretty sure you could cheese it like that. I never did it, so I don't know if it actually worked, but I'm pretty sure you could do that. So that's probably better. Yeah, so it's probably better you can't cheese that anymore. Some gamepad stuff. Spearman Spear Toss can now target rank 3 or 4 when they have combo. Now ignores blunt, has increased block and increased chance against targets with combo. Will not apply combo if they have combo. Okay. That probably makes it scarier with the Warlord then, because the Warlord can combo back there. Or if whoever's back there, if they're attacking the shield or whatever, they'll get combo. Warlord Pero now applies small horror. I mean, it does crush the skull. I guess it kind of makes sense. That's an interesting change. Cruel Intent change again, huh? Cruel Intent replaced gain on crit blind token with gain on non-crit blind token. Cruel Intent is the most polarizing cultist trinket around its use and concept, and with enough feedback, we've decided it needs to be adjusted again. This changes at a last attempt at keeping its core concept. Depending on feedback, we'll be considering a complete overhaul of this item. Gain on non-crit blind token. Hold on, let's look at... Let me read this again. Let's look at the tooltip for that. State items, right? Okay, so when state item is equipped, combat start blind, gain on non-crit blind, and then you miss, and it gives you more crit. But if you crit, it doesn't give you a blind. That seems like it's probably better. So my issue with Cruel Intent is that you can resist the combat start blinds, which is the dumbest shit ever. Because if you resist those, then you basically either needed your hero to be blinded or the enemy to have a dodge in order to have literally any value out of this trinket. So that's probably better. I like I don't know. I like Cruel Intent. I know it's not popular, but gain on non-crit. I'd be willing to try this out, though. This might make it feel, I don't know. This might make it feel better. I don't know, though. People typically don't like, especially with stain trinkets, people typically don't like gambling a lot with that, so I don't know. Stealth tokens icon's been updated. We saw that. Taunt and stealth tokens now negate each other. I'm going to be honest, I thought they already did. Favorite toy now has +1 bleed dealt when serrated item equipped, +1 blight dealt when noxious item equipped, +1 burn dealt when flammable item equipped. Ooh, I like that. After reviewing feedback during testing, we decided that favorite toy is still too strong compared to other memories. Since it buffs all dot types, we opted to add a condition that we feel is appropriate thematically and mechanically by adding item equipped conditions based on their respective dot types. There are still other memories on our watch list that may be adjusted in a future build. That probably makes it not like just stupid broken anymore. Probably. Do you actually have to like try to get value out of it now? This is a pretty easy buff for like burn heroes because Glimmer Hopes are flammable. So it's really easy to get as opposed to Serrated and Noxious are a little bit harder. That seems like a good one. We'll have to see. Either way, I'll be trying out all these changes, all this stuff on my stream. As I go through this stuff. Really interesting to try out Survivor. Don't know what a plan for it is, but I'll really have to try out Survivor. And obviously Wanderer, I'll try that out too. Interesting. I wonder why they changed a couple Wanderer skills on Runaway. And then the next week they changed some more and Survivor. Like I wonder why Orphan and Arsonist still have not been changed. Like I wonder why they did it so slow compared to the other ones. Yeah, we'll see. We'll have to play her out. Seems like Runaway, and they did the same in the Plague Doctor. It seems like there's a lot of changes like synergistic. Like there's a lot of synergy changes as far as what you can do with other heroes. So it makes some comps more interesting. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Either way, I said I wasn't going to talk nearly as long, and I guess I technically didn't, but I kind of did. Either way, I appreciate you guys sticking through my yapping, and we'll try some more stuff out. We'll see. We'll have to see how these changes feel. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Thank you very much. Tell me what you guys think of your changes, and also like subscribe and stuff. I appreciate you. Have a nice rest of your day. Thank you.